Thanks to forensic genealogy, they were finally able to identify and find their loved one, but not in the way they had hoped. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of Evelyn Cologne. Viewer discretion is advised. Real quick before we get started, of course, hello, my name is Mike. If you are new to my channel here on YouTube, I tell a plethora of true crime stories every single week here on YouTube, where you're at currently. Yeah, okay, Mike, stop. So please subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. Give this video a like, hit the bell, all that jazz, yada, yada, yada. Also, I tell short form true crime stories over on TikTok. I have a couple different pages. Feel free to follow those. The links to both of those pages are in the link tree in the description of this video below. You will also find the links pop up here at some point in the beginning and also at the end of the video. Check it out if you want to. Also in the link tree below, you will find my merch store. We have like t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. We ship all over this grand planet, is a bizarre way to say it, but we do. So yeah, check it out if you want to. And then lastly, if there's a case you want me to cover, please just send me a super quick email. All I need is really the name, where it happened, and when it happened. Then I'll add the name to my list. The list is over 6,100 names long as of right now. I pick the cases I cover each video at random, so it may be a while before I get to your case that you recommended, but I will get to it eventually, I promise. Anyway, let's dive in. See what I did there? I dove. I don't know how to dive. Actually, I'm very terrified of diving into a pool. Where am I going with this? I have no idea. Let's get into today's case. Okay, circle back, Mike. Calm down. You got it. It was roughly a week before Christmas in 1976. Along the banks of the Lehigh River in Pennsylvania, there was a teenage boy who was on a walk where he then noticed 3 suitcases along the banks of the river. But when he got closer, he was absolutely horrified to see that some things had fallen out of the suitcases. This included a severed head of a young woman. It appeared that someone had been above on the Interstate 80 bridge, which is, I guess, an east side borough. Someone had gone from up there and likely tossed these suitcases over the bridge in hopes that they would land in the water, but they failed each time, all 3 times. So obviously this young child will go to police to notify them of what he found. When they arrive, they confirm that there are 3 suitcases, and all 3 of them contain dismembered body parts of a young female. Not only was this victim's torso and head had fallen out of the suitcases, but they also discovered that this young woman was pregnant. They found a fetus as well. The coroner determined that this young woman, whose name at that time was unknown, had been dead for probably about 24-ish hours or so. And then whoever killed her dismembered her body in several parts, wrapped some of her body parts in like newspapers and things like that, and shoved them and stuffed them into 3 separate suitcases. The coroner said that it didn't appear that this was done by someone who was like a surgeon, but this was done by someone who had a pretty decent understanding of human anatomy and how to cut a body up. The autopsy would show that this, at the point, Jane Doe, was shot in her throat, and she was also strangled. There were multiple things that led to her death, but this obviously, clearly, was a homicide. They never found the woman's breasts, her nose, or her ears. They had been removed, but were not anywhere in the suitcases or anywhere along the banks of the river. This was in 1976. There wasn't the electronic communication that we have nowadays. They came up with a composite drawing of their victim they believed was likely a teenager, possibly someone in their early 20s, but that's really all they could tell. and the composite image they put out in the newspaper and on the news, it didn't yield any hits. Again, this was before a time that where the internet didn't exist, and so you couldn't put an image out there and then people all over the world would see it instantly. And so by 1983, she hadn't been identified still, and they ended up burying her in a Pennsylvania graveyard and buried her under the name of Beth Doe. The years would go by and they would look at this case from time to time, but there was such little evidence in terms of like any kind of additional forensic evidence, like any other DNA or fingerprints in terms of who may have done this or also who this person was. But over the years, as technology advanced, the detectives who were assigned to this case would take the fingerprints from the Beth Doe, because they did take them. They put them out there in the world to see if they maybe matched something, but obviously it never came back with anything. In 2007, they would end up exhuming Beth Doe's body from the graveyard in order to take some tissue samples in order to build up some kind of DNA profile now that we have that ability to do so. And they were able to do so. They built up a DNA profile of who Beth Doe was, but it did not obviously bring them to a name at that point. In 2014, they would send like tooth enamel, bone samples, and they sent these to a facility in South Florida who had been known to kind of work with these types of things in order to discover what this person may have looked like or anything like that. They believe that the woman could have been possibly of native descent or maybe from Central Europe. But again, it didn't help them identify her. Around 2020 or so, they would take the DNA and they would give it to a DNA company in Texas to see if there's anything else they could do with it. And then what they did was they entered it into one of those public databases where the genetic genealogy, forensic genealogy, places like ancestry.com, etc. And this time they actually found a hit. A man named Luis Colon Jr. had submitted his DNA into the Ancestry.com websites in order just to learn more about his ancestry, which is what most people use it for, obviously. And so in March of 2021, Luis Colon Jr. gets a phone call, not from anyone he ever expected, from a homicide detective in Pennsylvania. He said, "We have DNA from a Jane Doe, Beth Doe, that was murdered back in 1976 or so, and this person has matched to your DNA, meaning that they are your family." And he knew immediately who it was. It was his aunt, Evelyn Colon. Luis Colon Jr. never met his aunt. He wasn't even born until 7 years after she seemed to fall off the face of the earth. But he knew his aunt's story very well because Evelyn Colon's family hadn't seen her since 1976. Evelyn was only 15 years old and she was pregnant at the time, and the family knew that. The Colon family would give a description of Evelyn, and it was it was a perfect match to what the body looked like. I mean, the family even mentioned a mole that Evelyn had that was on the Beth Doe. So they took more DNA from family, and just to confirm, they put it all together, and it was confirmed. Beth Doe was the 15-year-old missing girl, Evelyn Colon, and also her unborn child. A family member of Evelyn's told the investigators at this point that Evelyn had recently moved into an apartment back in 1976 with her 19-year-old boyfriend and the presumed father of her child, unborn child, Luis Sierra. Luis Sierra, who now at this point is 64 years old, like I said, was 19 years old at the time when Evelyn was 15. But they had moved into an apartment together in New Jersey. Sometime around the beginning to middle of December of 1976, Evelyn gave a phone call to her family, also in New Jersey, and said, "Hey, I'm not feeling well. Can you make me some soup?" And so a day or so later, they end up going to where Evelyn's new apartment was with some soup. But when they got there, no one was there. The apartment was now empty. When they knocked on the door of a neighbor, they told Evelyn's family that, it looked like they moved out like a day or so ago. which was super weird because Evelyn made no mention of this plan to move when she spoke to her family about wanting some soup. Why would she ask the family to bring soup over if she was moving in like a day or so? Investigators in 2021 learned that Luis Sierra was a very controlling and at times emotionally abusive boyfriend to Evelyn. And allegedly, Evelyn had told her mom that if anything untoward or something happened to her, to look into Luis immediately because he probably had done something to her. But before the family could really do anything in terms of like filing a missing persons report, by early January of 1977, they actually received a letter. The letter supposedly was from Evelyn Colon. The letter had stated that Evelyn had given birth to her baby, a boy named Luis Sierra Jr., and that they were doing really well, and they had moved out of state, and this was the last contact she was going to have with them. She said, listen, if I ever need anything from you guys, I'll reach out to you, but at this point, you probably won't hear much from me. Should have been an immediate red flag, but they believe the letter came from their daughter, Evelyn. But they never heard from Evelyn ever again after that. The letter said that she probably wouldn't be in contact with them. They also never heard from Luis Sierra ever again. By 2021 or 2022 or so, detectives learned that Luis Sierra is now living in Queens, New York. And when they go to initially interview him, he denies ever even knowing Evelyn Colon. He said, I don't know who that is. Sorry. But once they showed him, like, listen, we've confirmed that this Jane Doe from 1976 is Evelyn. She was pregnant, and we have it on good authority that you were the father of her baby. And then he says, oh, right. Yeah, that was like 40-ish years ago. Oh my God. I do remember her. Yes. He says, well, yeah, I mean, I was the father of her baby. And I came home one day from work in December of 1976 and she was just gone. She up and left. And he said after that, he just said, fine, I'll move out of the apartment. And that's what he said he did. He moved out of the apartment. He said, I just assumed she had gone back home to live with her family. And then the police asked him, well, why did you never try to reach out to her? I mean, you're the father of the baby. Why didn't you ever try to find out, try to visit your child? Why didn't you do any of that? And he said, like he wouldn't come up with an answer. He couldn't figure out what to say to that. They also asked him about the letter that was sent to the Colon family stating that Evelyn had decided to move on with Luis out of state. And he didn't really have a solid answer for the letter either. He really couldn't give them something. I feel like he was put on the spot and he just didn't know, he hadn't practiced what to say to them. And so in 2022, based on just circumstantial evidence and the fact that they knew he had been lying about several things, police have now arrested Luis Sierra and have charged him with the murder of Evelyn Colon. This completely shocked his neighbors. They said, he was this totally sweet guy. He was a nice guy. He always said hello to us. One of the neighbors said, Luis was like a brother to me. We had lived next to each other for so long, and he would cook food and bring it over to us, and he would laugh with us, and we would have a good time. We had dinners together. And also Luis Sierra had become a father. Of course he did. Oftentimes it is that person, the person who seems the nicest and the kindest, who ends up being a monster. But here's the thing. He was arrested a year and a half-ish into the COVID pandemic. And it's now, I'm filming this in May of 2024, and I cannot find any information about a trial or when a trial would be. I do know that in 2022, he was released on a $250,000 bond. He posted the bond, and he has been out living with his family ever since. But that's the last significant update I have. He has not, from what I can tell, gone to trial yet. I've gone to like the legal websites and tried to look in like Pennsylvania and New York, like case information, court files. I can't find anything about if he's gone to trial yet. Usually that stuff is super easy to find. So I don't think he's gone to trial yet. I think it's still actually pending. In terms of physical evidence, I don't know if they have any of that to physically connect him to this. They may have information that they just haven't released to the public because obviously a trial is pending. I don't know if they've been able to say like, oh yeah, he bought those suitcases from this store at this time, or if they had fingerprints on the suitcases that would end up matching him. I don't know. All I know is that Evelyn Cologne, who was 15 years old, was impregnated by 19-year-old Luis Sierra in 1975, 1976 or so. And then one day, while living with him, she asks her family, can you bring me over some soup? I'm not feeling well. The family comes over. She's gone. Apartment is empty. Then they find her dismembered body in 3 suitcases in 1976, just a few days after her family had last seen her. The family then gets a fake letter from someone posing as Evelyn, obviously. They don't know any of this until over 40 years later. They assume that entire 40-year gap she was alive out there somewhere and for some reason just wouldn't want to have any contact with them. They wanted to know her. They wanted to know her child. They had no idea she had been dead the entire time, murdered. The circumstances of her murder are pretty suspicious in terms of Luis Sierra. I mean, he would have been the last person to see her. They were living together and suddenly she's gone, but found murdered in 3 suitcases 100 miles away in Pennsylvania. The realistic assumption is that he did it. But of course, you need to be able to prove that in a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt. They have not been able to do that yet, as far as I could tell. So hopefully there will be an update at some point, and if I can remember, if I can see that update, I know I cover a lot of cases, and sometimes I forget to go back to certain ones, and I apologize for that, but sometimes my brain just doesn't remember. But hopefully, if I can see an update on this in the future, I will provide an update. So, as of right now, Evelyn Cologne is still awaiting her official justice, and hopefully one day in the very, very soon future, if they have the right person for this, hopefully Evelyn Cologne will get the justice, finally, that she rightfully deserves. But that is it for this case. True crime, a Rooney Dooney Dingleberry Dongs. I hope you found it interesting. As usual, please subscribe, give this video a like, so it pushes it out to the YouTube universe. Follow me over on TikTok if you want to. Check out the merch store. Check out my email address. My email address is listed in the description below if you want to send me a case. So check out the email address. It's fun to look at. Yeah, so that is it for this case. That is it for this video. And so we will see you for the next one, which will be tomorrow, maybe? Question mark? Probably. I'm filming this hella in the past. I'm way in the past. Before you see this, I could be dead. I could be dead. And this video was posting already. You know what I mean? Like I already have a bunch of videos up. How creepy would that be, right? I have all of these videos. I have like 12 videos already uploaded and ready to go for your viewing displeasure. And what if I died in that meantime, but my videos keep posting? How creepy would that be? That would be unsettling, right? It'd be like a ghost talking to you from the grave. Hopefully I'm still alive, though. Can you let me know in the comments below if I'm still alive when you see this video? I don't know how you would know that, but just let me know. Let me know if I'm still alive. And anyway, this was a very grim way to end the video. I'm hopefully alive and thrive. Alive and thrive. Aliving and thriving in the universe. This is going off the deep end, like always. So, yeah, this was a video that you watched with your faces. And now this is the end of that video that you are seeing with your eye holes. And so you could have just said goodbye like 12 minutes ago, Mike, but you rambled. I know. So